And today we have our founding attorney, Louis Landerholm, with us to talk about why we withdraw as attorney at the end of your case. Louis, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well today. We got sun.
Yes.
I want to start with a simple, or maybe not so simple question. When exactly does a case end?
Well, I guess there's some more complicating issues surrounding the ending of a case, but let's sort of just talk through a normal case. Normal case goes in front of a judge, or maybe doesn't go in front of a judge, but we put the judgment together. The parties sign the judgment, and then it goes into the court. The court then would sign it, and then at that point, the judgment is entered. And as far as the legal process is concerned, the case would be done. Now, keep in mind that if trial happens, we have 28 days to enter the judgment, and sometimes it can take longer, and sometimes you can have hearings surrounding the judgment. So that part by itself can take a month or two. But then once the judgment is signed and entered, then the court part of the procedure is done and finished. And so then, the divorce or whatever case would be finalized at that point.
And is that typically then when you would withdraw from the case as the attorney of record?
Typically, yes. We also give our clients a choice in the matter, as far as if they want us to withdraw at that moment. There's specific reasons to withdraw or not to withdraw. One of the main reasons why we think clients want us to withdraw is so that we can't be served on their behalf. So if we're still attorneys of record in the case, then any modification in the future, any action in the future, even if it's 4 or 5 years down the road, we could still be potentially served, which then, if we can't find our client, or if there's some extraordinary type circumstances, that can be problematic. And so, especially depending on where people have moved and all of that. So, while sometimes our clients choose, they want us to be able to be served, so that way they don't have to, worry that they won't get served themselves. But that's sort of a personal decision that that our clients make, and we talk to them at the end of the advantages and disadvantages. But most of the time it's more advantageous to have us withdraw and not remain attorneys of record.
That makes sense, because it would seem that if they don't know something's happened, they're not going to be able to defend against it. They have to at least know it's happening.
Yeah. The other advantage is at least we would know it's happening, so then we can at least, run some points. So sometimes it does make sense to stay on a case, but it's not a one size fits all approach. But for the vast majority of people, we do end up withdrawing, and that takes over the next couple of months after a case is done, getting the file all archived, getting all of the documents back to clients, and so there's a wrap up process that occurs once the case is technically finalized in the court process.
That kind of leads to the question that I get a lot from people who see that my attorney is withdrawing, and it doesn't mean you don't want to represent them in the future. It's really, like you said, just to protect you and them. And that kind of leads to, what happens after you withdraw? What sort of is the process that goes on after you withdraw?
The withdrawal is just a formal process with the courts that just tells them that we're no longer attorney of record for that specific case. We have clients who remain clients for years when we're not attorneys of record. We have clients who have been clients for years that we were never attorney of record for. So just because we're withdrawing from the case doesn't mean that we're no longer the client's attorney. We're still providing advice. We're still potentially doing work on a case. It just may not have anything to do with the actual court process. And so it's just finalizing the court process and just sort of tying that bow, so that way the court understands that they're not coming to us anymore for for notices for anything that's going on in the case. We're working directly, with the client behind the scenes, and then other notices can go directly to the client as well.
If you do close out and withdraw, is there stuff that happens? I mean, what happens to if they've got documents with you, your file? What do you do with your file?
Yeah, so typically we have to archive our file for 10 years. And so we go through an archival process at the actual end of a case to make sure that all the documents are kept in on our electronically, and we keep everything electronically, and so that we can maintain that record. As far as physical documents, gets a little technical, but most physical documents are not required to be kept. We send back all original documents to a client because clients want their original documents. Because we only have to keep original documents. Anything that is a copy, anything that we have scanned, we typically can just discard those and shred those, so that way we maintain the electronic file, but we don't maintain a physical copy for the 10-year process.
So if something does come up a year from now, 4 years from now, you'll be able to just get up and started right away. It's not as if they have to start the whole process again from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, we have everything that happened in the first case. We have all the communication, we have all the notes, we have all the pleadings, we have everything in the file. So the file still exists. We have the file, like I said, maintained for 10 years. And so, we can find anything that's that's necessary in the event of a modification, in the event of a new issue that comes up. We represent a number of clients multiple times over the course of the years.
Yeah. And so what happens, or what do you advise a client when the case is over? After you have withdrawn, what do you advise them to do? Because obviously they need to be somewhat aware that something might happen.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the case, a lot of times it's case dependent, but especially with divorces, a lot of times it's talking about getting their estate planning redone, because the divorce by itself will terminate any heirs, any sort of beneficiaries within an old will. So, there's a lot of advice surrounding the estate planning portion of things. A lot of advice on what to do if something happens, and your ex files to modify for anything, for support, for parenting time, for custody, or what have you, and also just the practical application of whatever else comes up. A lot of times people are, moving households, or they're doing this or that. And, we point a lot of them to you, obviously, Steve, because you help with getting referrals for things that are outside of the legal scope, where we can help clients, get realtors, or get, movers, or get whatever it may be, so that they can start to transition into their, sort of new household and new life.
So I guess it's fair to say that, again, the fear of having you withdraw is really, there isn't a need for it. It isn't really fact-based, because you're always there. We're always there and ready. We're just not having to keep a file open. I mean, I imagine that if someone says, okay, I'd like you to, be my client and still, be the person who gets served and all that, there is a cost involved in keeping a file open.
I mean, just from the standpoint that they're, maybe at the beginning, over the course of the years, there's less of there's not a lot of management that has to happen, obviously. But it does allow for, if we get served, something, then we would bill for that. The other component of, if we withdraw, it doesn't mean that we're still not billing for, for work that is being done, if people are calling to ask questions, because we're still doing, sort of case wrap up and tidying things up. And there's always questions that come up. And it doesn't mean that we don't want to work for our clients at all. We want to continue the relationship. We also, know that clients want to move on and want to be able to, stop talking to their attorneys at times as well. So we don't, force the issue. We want to be available when needed, but not necessarily, continue to manage a case when things have wrapped up and everything's been, archived and files, taken care of the way they need to.
I love it. Well, just kind of final word. Is there anything you would like to say or think someone would like to hear that they should just keep in their head when they see the filing come through, that we have withdrawn from that case? Just something to keep in their head to remember.
Well, I mean, the easiest thing is if you have questions, just reach out. That's always the easiest way to to operate. As far as the withdrawal itself, it's just again, remember, this is something that the court needs us to do, or that's helpful in the court process. So that way, we're not just sitting there as attorneys of record. There can be situations where the state is moving for a modification of child support, and they have to reach out and make sure that the attorney of record is either actually the attorney of record or no longer the attorney of record. And so administratively, it just cleans things up, and it just gives everybody the information that as to related to this case in the court record, they don't have to reach out to us as their attorney directly. They can reach out directly to the client, and therefore client has the ability to decide what they want to do at that point.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks, Louis, for sitting down today to talk with us about this. It's something that is kind of a mysterious thing going on. People don't really understand what that means. And by kind of talking about what it really means and the process of it, I think that's incredibly valuable information for people to have and understand. So thanks for joining us again today.
Yeah, happy to do it. Thanks a lot, Steve.
I love it. And everyone else, thank you for joining. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, be well, and remember, if you have any questions about any of this, you can post it here, you can contact us, and we will get you connected with one of our attorneys. So until next time,